Hello students, this is a continuation of chapter number 15, Life Processes in Living Organisms for Standard 9, subject Science 2, and you are watching part 7 of the video. In this video, we shall be studying the structure and functions of human brain and the spinal cord. The human brain, also called as the encephalon, is a very delicate organ. It is the main coordinating center of the body because it controls all the functions of our body. The brain also interprets information from the outside world. It controls all the five senses. It is responsible for emotions, thoughts, and movement. An adult human brain weighs around 1300 to 1400 grams. It consists of about 100 billion neurons or nerve cells. The brain is 80% water and consumes more than 25% of the total oxygen into the body. This bony structure that you can see in the image is called as the skull. The skull is made up of two parts, cranium and mandible. The part of the skull which protects the brain is called as the cranium, whereas the jaw part of the skull is called as the mandible. The brain, being a very delicate organ, needs protection. So there are three protective membranes which cover the brain, and these membranous tissues which protect the brain are called as the meninges. So in the diagram you can see this outer part is the skin. Just below the skin lies the skull bone, which is called as the cranium. Just below the cranium you see there is a purple colored membrane, then there is a pink colored membrane like structure, and then there is a brown colored membranous structure. So actually these membranes are not these colored. This is just to show the differentiation between the different layers which are present in the brain. So this first covering protecting the brain is called as the dura mater. The dura mater is a tough covering of the brain. The membrane which lies just below the dura mater, this pink colored layer like structure, this structure is called as the arachnoid matter. The arachnoid matter is a thin delicate middle layer which forms a web like cushion. Between the dura mater and the arachnoid matter lies some space. So you can see these white empty spaces. So this space which is present between the dura mater and the arachnoid matter is called as the subdural space. Then the innermost layer of the brain or the innermost protective tissue of the brain is called as the pia mater. The pia mater is the innermost membrane and it is highly vascular because it is highly supplied with blood vessels. Once again you can see there is space between the arachnoid matter and pia mater, and this empty space is called as the subarachnoid space. In this diagram, the grey colored protective layer that you can see here is called as the dura mater. This dark purple colored layer is called as the arachnoid matter, and the light purple colored layer is called as the pia mater. So these are the three protective coverings of the brain which are called as the meninges. Now the space between the dura mater and the arachnoid matter is called as a subdural space, and the space between the arachnoid matter and the pia mater is called as the subarachnoid space. Both the subdural space and the subarachnoid space are filled with cerebrospinal fluid. Also, there are cavities which are present in the brain, and these cavities are called as the ventricles. The ventricles are also filled with CSF, that is the cerebrospinal fluid. The main function of the CSF is to give protection to the brain from mechanical shocks. The second function of CSF is The CSF offers buoyancy to the brain. As the brain is immersed in fluid, that is the CSF, the net weight of the brain is reduced from 1400 grams to 50 grams. Therefore, the pressure at the base of the brain is highly reduced. The CSF also acts as a medium of exchange for the nutrients, the chemical messengers, that is the hormones which are secreted by the endocrine glands, and the waste products. In this diagram, you can very clearly see the subarachnoid space, and you can also see the ventricles which are present in the brain, and this light blue colored fluid which is shown here in the diagram is the cerebrospinal fluid. The brain has three main parts, and these parts are visible externally. They are cerebrum, cerebellum, and medulla oblongata. Cerebrum. Cerebrum is the largest portion of the brain. It occupies 2/3 portion of the brain. The cerebrum is divided into two halves by a deep furrow, and this furrow which divides the cerebrum into two halves is called as the cerebral fissure. Because of the cerebral fissure, the cerebrum is now divided into two halves. Each of the halves of the cerebrum are called as the cerebral hemispheres. So this is the right cerebral hemisphere and this is the left cerebral hemisphere. The outer surface of the cerebrum is highly convoluted with ridges and grooves. The folds which are seen on the cerebrum are called as the gyri. Singular is gyrus. So this fold part of the cerebrum is called as the gyri. Singular is gyrus, plural is gyri. Whereas the groove, that is, you can see these depressions, these grooves which are present in the brain are called as the sulci. So here you can see the depression which is created because of the fold is the sulci. Singular is sulcus and plural is sulci. The two cerebral hemispheres are connected by a tract of nerve fibers, and this portion which connects the two cerebral hemispheres is called as the corpus callosum. So this is the corpus callosum. The corpus callosum connects the left and the right cerebral hemispheres. The main function of corpus callosum is to facilitate communication between the two cerebral hemispheres. The right side of the brain controls the muscles on the left side of the body, and the left side of the brain controls the muscles on the right side of the body. Therefore, damage to any one side of the brain will affect the opposite side of the body. As you can see here, the left cerebral hemisphere is associated with computation and analysis, which includes the number skills, mathematical and scientific skills, both written and spoken language, objectivity in thinking, analytical skills, logical thinking, reasoning ability. Whereas the right cerebral hemisphere is associated with creativity and music, which could include music and art awareness, intuition, creativity, imagination, subjectivity, synthesizing, emotions, face recognition. The cerebrum has four lobes, each carrying out a different task. The lobes are the frontal lobe, the parietal lobe, occipital lobe, and temporal lobe. The frontal lobe is responsible for decision making, problem solving, language, planning, movement, judgment, motor functions. The parietal lobe is responsible for body awareness, language, reading, intelligence, reasoning, sensation. The occipital lobe is responsible for vision, And the temporal lobe is responsible for hearing, smelling, speech, behavior, emotions, memory. The outer part of the cerebral cortex is made up of nerve fibers, which is called as the gray matter. The gray matter contains the cytons or the cell bodies of the nerve cells or the neurons. The inner layer of the cerebral cortex is called as the medulla. It is made up of different types of nerve fibers, which is called as the white matter. The white matter contains the axons along with the myelin sheath of the nerve cells or the neurons. So the gray matter includes the cell body or the cyton of the neuron, and the white matter includes the axons of the neuron. The main functions of cerebrum are: the cerebrum is the seat of intelligence, memory, reasoning, learning, and willpower. It helps us to understand and perceive the sensory stimulus through vision, taste, smell, sound, touch, and speech. Therefore, the second function of the cerebrum is it enables us to understand things through the sensory organs. The cerebrum controls all the voluntary activities of the body which are under the control of our will. It is also a center for emotions, thoughts, feelings like pain, pleasure, fear, fatigue, pressure, temperature, etc. It is a center for micturition, defecation, weeping, and laughing. Cerebellum. Cerebellum is the second largest part of the brain, and you can see that it is located at the base and just under the cerebrum. The cerebellum does not have any folds or the convolutions, but it has furrows, that is, it has got depressions. This also has an outer cortex which is made up of gray matter, and centrally it has white matter, which is in a median section which appears like a branching of a tree, and this is called as arbor vitae. The main functions of the cerebellum are: the cerebellum is the primary center for maintaining the balance of our body. It helps in coordinating the muscular activities like walking, running, speaking, etc. Medulla oblongata. The medulla oblongata is the lowest portion of the brain, or you can say it is the posterior part of the brain. It is located at the base of the skull. The medulla oblongata continues as the spinal cord. It is responsible for controlling all the involuntary movements of the body. So, medulla oblongata is the regulatory center for many activities like swallowing, coughing, sneezing, vomiting, respiration, heartbeat, peristalsis, urination, defecation, yawning, hiccuping, secretion by the glands, etc. Injury to medulla oblongata results in sudden death of an individual. Spinal cord and functions of spinal cord. The spinal cord is a part of the central nervous system. So this rope-like structure which extends from the medulla oblongata of the brain is called as the spinal cord. The spinal cord is protected inside the vertebral column, that is our backbone. There is a small central canal. The small opening that you can see is the central canal. So this central canal is present throughout the length of the vertebral column, and the spinal cord lies within this central canal. The central canal is also filled with the cerebrospinal fluid. So this grey colored rope like structure is called as the spinal cord, and the area around the spinal cord which is filled with this light blue color, this is the cerebrospinal fluid. And you know what is the function of the cerebrospinal fluid? The cerebrospinal fluid acts as a shock proof cushion, and it forms as a medium of exchange for food materials, waste products, and even excretory gases with the neurons. Externally, the spinal cord is covered with the same three membranes as we have studied in the brain. The outer membrane is the dura mater, the middle membrane is the arachnoid mater, and the inner membrane is called as the pia mater. The spinal cord is slightly thick, but gradually it tapers towards the end. There is a thread-like fibrous structure at the end, and this thread-like fibrous structure of the spinal cord is called as the filum terminale. Functions of spinal cord are to conduct impulses from the skin towards the brain, also bring back the impulses from the brain to the muscles or to the glands. It also acts as a center for coordination of reflex actions. There are two types of actions which occur in a body. They are voluntary and involuntary actions. Voluntary actions are performed consciously, that is, these actions are performed according to a will. For example, I want to go for a walk, or I want to raise my hand, I want to write in the notebook, I want to see some TV program, so I pick up the remote and press the button for a particular channel. So all these are voluntary actions. Actions which occur in our body can also be involuntary actions. Involuntary actions occur unknowingly, or these involuntary actions are not under the control of a will. Involuntary actions are also called as reflexes or reflex actions. A reflex action is a sudden action, an automatic action, quick, and it is an involuntary response that our body gives to a stimulus which takes place in the environment. So we respond to that particular stimulus without thinking. So there is no thinking involved in case of reflex action. For example, when we accidentally touch a hot object, we immediately withdraw our hand. When it is too dark, we dilate the pupil of our eyes. When we directly look at the sun, we narrow our eyes. Our mouth starts watering when we look at delicious food. When some particle enters our eyes, there is immediate flushing of tears from our eyes to wash off the particles. So during such situations, control and coordination does not need the intervention of brain. So these are called as reflex actions, and reflex actions are involuntary and instantaneous actions of any body part in response to a stimulus which takes place in the outside environment. So these actions do not require any conscious thought or awareness about the automatic response that our body gives. Reflex action takes place through reflex arc. A typical reflex arc consists of three types of neurons: the sensory neuron, the relay neuron, and the motor neuron. The receptor organ, which is one of our sensory organ, and the effector organ, which is a muscle or a gland, both participate in the reflex arc. The reflex arcs are found in the spinal cord. But after the instant response, the sensation is also carried to the brain. But the brain is not responsible for interpreting the message. So now let us see what is the pathway of the natural reflexes. The sensory receptor picks up the information from the surrounding in the form of an external stimulus. This stimulus is carried by the sensory neuron to the gray matter of the spinal cord. The spinal cord interprets the message. The message is then carried by the association neuron or the relay neuron. From the relay neuron, the message or the signal is passed on to the motor neuron, which also lies in the gray matter of the spinal cord. The motor neuron now carries the impulse to the effector organ, which is a muscle or a gland, and here the response is immediately flashed like a reflection, which makes the effector muscle to react. This is the schematic pathway of the reflex arc. The receptor picks up the stimulus from the surrounding. This stimulus is carried by the sensory neuron to the spinal cord. The spinal cord will interpret the message and it is passed on to the relay neuron in the gray matter of the spinal cord. From the relay neuron, the impulse is carried by the motor neuron, and from the motor neuron, the impulse reaches the effector muscle where the movement of the muscle is brought about.